Yeah, it is another episode of the Autumn Windbags. RJ Clifford, Juan Soto. Let's have some fun today. I don't know if the Raiders got better, but I know the Raiders definitely got sexier. Jimmy Garoppolo, a.k.a. Jimmy G, is now officially Jimmy G String. He is signed to the Raiders. And the quarterback that we thought, right, when we were putting out who we think is going to take week one snaps, not who we wanted, not who we were begging for, but just who do we think is going to be taking the week one snaps next season? We said Jimmy Garoppolo was most likely, and it is true. His deal with the Raiders, you can see it here. 11.25 next season, 11.25. Following season, 22.5 million in 2025. But the ones that actually matter, cap space. $16.3 million cap hit this season, 28 million after that, 28 million after that. But they can cut him pretty easily with only 3.7 million in cap hits after one season, which is good news. So he doesn't pan out, and we pick up a rookie that's better. We can cut ties after one season. It reminds me a little bit of the Derek Carr deal. Like, you can, after one season, you can cut him. Roughly $22 to $25 million per year that we'll be paying him, depending on how the contract plays out. But it's official. Jimmy G is Jimmy G String in Las Vegas.
You know, we saw it coming. I think we maybe wanted to blow smoke and this and that and all this other stuff. And it's a pretty standard deal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if Jimmy G does work out, if his injuries don't catch up to him, if we are able to keep him healthy and he shows that, he's going to get paid still on the much lower end, maybe half of what some of these high-end, top-end quarterbacks are making by that time in 24 and 25, right?
Yeah.
So as far as that goes, it's a pretty good deal. You know, I'm pretty happy with the deal. Play wise, talent wise, I don't see there being any drop off between Carr and Jimmy G. You also get the fact that he's a lot more familiar with McDaniels' system and what McDaniels wants to do with the ball.
Yeah,
it's that injury history.
Yeah,
and that's why he gets
in a bubble. Derek Carr is better, but yeah, in a bubble, I think Derek Carr is a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo. But clearly, and we've had this argument 100 times, whoever you want to blame, Derek Carr and Josh McDaniels
didn't mesh, man.
Not working, right? You blame Carr, I blame McDaniels. We both agree Carr and McDaniels isn't going to happen, right?
Ultimately, it doesn't matter whose fault it was. It
doesn't matter at this point. Well, I mean, whatever. Conversation we'll have again, I'm sure. So it feels kind of lateral move-ish, cheaper, but like you mentioned, his injury history reads like a novel.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Jimmy Garoppolo is one of the most injured quarterbacks in professional football. He's been injured multiple times every single season that he's played any number of significant snaps. And of course, that's always the big issue with Jimmy Garoppolo. If he wasn't an injury guy, he'd be a $40 million, I think, a year quarterback if he didn't constantly get injured every single season. And I can just see it coming, man. Like, this is what I don't like about it, is I can see it coming. He plays 6-7 games, and I hope I'm not wanting to jinx it, right? I hope he has magical healing powers. He finds a great HGH guy in Las Vegas, and he's perfectly good for the rest of his career, right? That's what I'm hoping, knock on wood. But I can just see it now. He plays great for 6 or 7 games. Game manager. Just don't throw picks. Get the rock to Davante. Get the rock to Hunter. Get the rock to Waller. Let them do all the work. Offense is humming. Bam! Blows his ACL out on the road in week 7, and we're fucked. Like, I can just, I don't want to see it, but I'm seeing it.
Yeah, well, that's why you don't pay him a lot of money, and that's why you give yourself an out after the first year. Yeah. It's a flyer that you wanted to take.
But it's a weird out, right? Like, assuming he plays really well, then gets hurt, it's like, you keep him?
No, you don't, because he can't stay healthy. You can't keep him healthy. So it's more than just can he play. It's, can he keep himself on the field? So, I mean, the contract is written that way. The numbers are written that way. I don't see there, you have to take a look at it for what it is. I know we all liked Stidham. We all liked the way he played, and he showed a lot of heart and this and that. I mean, like you said in the past and I even said so. Stidham is not as talented as Derek Carr was. Stidham is not as talented as Jimmy Garoppolo is. He's just not. If he was, he'd be playing. You know.
We'll get to Stidham in a second. Because there's obviously that breaking news I think affects us too. But let's first thank you for the super chat, JR the Barbarian. So drafting Jalen Carter now? Question mark. What do you think, Soto?
If he's available, I would take him. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we need impact players on our team wherever they go. The way I kind of built it was I got an impact player in the secondary by trading back with the Eagles and swapping some other picks and taking on Darius Slay and signing a guy and drafting a guy, but ultimately that didn't work.
God damn it, Michael Rain.
Michael Rain the third. God damn you.
God damn it. God damn it. Breaks his dick. He's balls deep in a stripper. Draft wise,
gets pink eye from a stripper's butthole.
How's this affect draft wise? You still think the Raiders still want to go?
Not at all.
Big
that
number
was the plan
one
from the beginning. That was a plan is to get a bridge quarterback, draft somebody, develop them underneath. I don't. Again, we talked about. Somebody who would not have any incentive to talk up Josh McDaniels was David Carr. He said that he even said himself that's why he works so well with young quarterbacks because he tells them where to go with the ball.
He likes
as long as they're accurate.
Just like you.
Oh yeah. The younger and legal, the better.
I'm still it's like I'm with you. This doesn't really change much draft wise for me. My goal is trade down, accumulate picks like a Hendon Hooker in the second. Take your time, develop them. Still in play. The game plan is generally the same, whether it was Jarrett Stidham or Jimmy G, just the price tag.
We were always going to go young. We weren't going to sign a big time guy. I know that there's reports out there that we were trying to move up to the number 1 spot with the Bears. We just got outbid.
Thank God with that price tag.
God, that was dude. That was. I mean, if you would have slid Hunter Renfrow in that contract in that trade, and 2 1s, 2 2s. Jesucristo, that would have been crazy.
So the other quarterback Raiders news that happened earlier in the day was the big disappointment for me. Former Raiders quarterback, Jarrett Stidham signing a 2-year, $10 million deal with the Donkeys. Going to the enemy, choosing to play for Sean Payton over other options. The deal includes $5 million in guarantees, $4 million more with upside. This is what made it hurt the most was Jarrett Stidham for $20 million less this season. We could have had as our bridge quarterback. Now, he's had some injury histories as well, right? Nowhere near as bad as Jimmy G, but it's still in play. But is there really truly a $20 million a year difference between Jarrett Stidham and Jimmy Garoppolo in your eyes, Soto?
It's tough to look at it that way. I do think that Garoppolo is better. And
certainly more proven, right?
He's a better player. And in that better is the difference between wins and losses. I think that you can definitely win a lot more, I would say, with Garoppolo than Stidham. I think Stidham showed us some stuff, but he also showed some stuff as to why maybe he hasn't been playing. He did turn the ball over quite a bit. And he's with Davis Webb. He's back with Davis Webb, who he's worked with in the past as a quarterback coach over there with the Broncos. I see this as a telltale. Letting Stidham walk, I see this as a telltale sign. Having Chase Garbers on, and I see we're going to draft a quarterback somewhere in this draft. So it's like if you have Chase Garbers, who you like, right, and you have Jimmy G, who you want to get to start. You want to build somebody that's going to be more talented than Chase Garbers to push Jimmy G and hopefully take over for him this next year so we can move on from Jimmy G and go on from there. So this is telling me we're going to take a quarterback this year. Maybe not the first round, but we're going to take one.
This is what frustrates me about losing Stidham to the Broncos. So, hey, offense, everything about the offense that you want to know. Here you go, right? That sucks. But here's the other part. We don't know the ceiling of Jarrett Stidham. He simply hasn't played enough, right? We just simply don't know his ceiling. With Jimmy G, we do. We know, like, there's almost no situation where Jimmy Garoppolo, you're like, all right, like he's our guy forever. We're going to pay him a bunch of money, et cetera. There's no situation that exists with that. We know what Jimmy G is, right? Jarrett Stidham could be something. He could be something special, potentially. And that's what I like more about that version of a bridge quarterback is maybe he turns out great. Maybe he's fantastic. We know what Jimmy Garoppolo is. Jarrett Stidham, we didn't. And that $20 million a year, you're right. Like Jimmy Garoppolo versus Jarrett Stidham, from what we know for sure, he's better. But $20 million, you throw $20 million a year into our secondary, that's 2 starters. That's, you know what I mean? That's 2 or 3 defensive starters to fix our defense. So
that's really tough.
What hurts.
That's really tough to look at it from that perspective, though, RJ, because I'm telling you that difference in player in consistency from Stidham to Garoppolo, that's the difference between winning and losing in a lot of cases.
But again, it's just hard because we don't know what Stidham.
Again, it's all in how you want to look at it. If you wanted to keep Stidham instead, of course you're going to look at it from that perspective. It's all in where you're starting from. If that's your viewpoint, then that's the way you're going to look at it.
Well, no one knows how good Stidham is, right? Like, I don't think. I mean, does really?
No, they don't. But if you want to look at it as a part of, we could have saved all this money, but then you're inferring that Jarrett Stidham is just as good a player and just as consistent as Jimmy Garoppolo. But we don't know that either. This
is the other part too that concerns me. We were both 95% sure Jarrett Stidham was staying in Las Vegas. Like he knows Josh McDaniels' system. He didn't play so well where other people are going to be knocking down doors to get him. Is there any part of you, and I know you like McDaniels more than I do, is there any part of you that's worried that Jarrett Stidham left because he didn't want to play for Josh McDaniels? Because he didn't go to a great deal. Like Raiders could have matched that deal easy. Like it feels like Stidham wanted out.
Or the Raiders just didn't want him because they got Jimmy G. They got the guy that they wanted.
Still a great backup. I mean, that's backup money.
It all depends on what you look. We're not in the room. We're not in the room. I think it's just a lot of speculation here. We're not in the room. What if they feel really good about Chase Garbers as a backup? What if they have plans to get a quarterback somewhere in the not super late, but like in the middle to maybe second day? We don't know what their plans are. I don't think like fucking Rory, goddammit, his hair was on fire because we didn't sign Illuminor and we didn't sign Stidham. Like, dude, these are backup players. Illuminor that did fine when he wasn't lighting the world on fire. But it's like we're jumping to these conclusions because we're letting backup-ish rotational players go. These guys can get easily replaced.
But for $4 million a year for a backup quarterback you're comfortable with, it just seemed.
Why pay him?
I hope you're right.
You have Chase Garbers. Why? If you're comfortable with Chase Garbers, why?
Well, a week ago you were 95% sure we were keeping Stidham, and now you're like, oh yeah, it makes perfect sense. Like,
no, I'm not saying that. You're saying is why wouldn't we keep him? I'm saying, okay, I understand. We got Jimmy Garoppolo, which we didn't have last week. Mm-hmm. Now we have our starting quarterback. If you're comfortable with Chase Garbers either being a backup or being the third stringer and drafting a quarterback, why have a fourth quarterback when you don't need one if you want to go young, if you want to get a rookie quarterback? That's what I don't understand.
Let's go to, thank you for the super chat, Jay Castro. I'd go D in the first, draft Duggan or Hainer later.
Duggan doesn't have enough, man.
Yeah.
He doesn't have enough. Hainer, again, I like tangibles. I like tangibles in my quarterbacks. That's why I'm not super duper pumped about Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think he has very good tangibles. I think he's solid. He's smart. He knows where to go with the ball, and he has the arm to get to he has the arm to make all the throws. He's not going to wow you with his arm. He's very similar to what we just had. You can argue a percentage point here or there on certain things, but he knows the system. He bought in. I don't know that Hainer's the guy that we want to, it's like a fighter. If you say, oh yeah, he's real tough, that's the first thing you say about the guy. That means he could take an ass beating. And that's necessarily something that you want the first thing you say about a fighter. Yeah. Same thing out of a quarterback. It's like, when the first thing you talk about a quarterback is his intangibles, then his tangibles aren't that great. His tangibles aren't popping off the freaking film.
Is she hot? Oh, she's really nice. Like an
Dude, she's
absolute
fucking
sweetheart.
cool as fuck.
She's so cool,
okay.
bro. Like
All right.
works with animals. She's like one of the guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she probably looks like one of the guys.
What does Vegas think? Not Vegas, the city and Raiders fans, but the odds makers. Did you see this? How the Super Bowl odds changed?
Yeah, like from 30-1 to 60-1 or something like that.
The Las Vegas Raiders go from 30-1 to 60-1 to win the 2024 Super Bowl after the Jimmy Garoppolo signing. Obviously, odds makers not too happy with it. Now, it's not like the team got twice as bad. There was potential that the Raiders were going to get Aaron Rodgers or like whatever, right? Like I think that's a big factor of it as well. But the odds makers seem to feel like bettors make this team far less Super Bowl worthy than they were before.
Yeah, I think the drop off isn't so much about Jimmy Garoppolo, but that it's not
someone else.
It's not either Lamar Jackson, it's not Aaron Rodgers. Like that's who it's not.
I'd say it's 25% Jimmy, 75% not getting a superstar.
No, I think that Vegas was hedging their bets, making it 30-1 because the possibility of getting a A-Rod or a Lamar Jackson was still out there. I think without that gone, then they're back there where they should have been, regardless. I mean, without that quarterback, whether it would have been like Carr.
I think it's less what's actually going to happen. I think it's more perception. I think the greater NFL fan base thinks Jimmy Garoppolo, without being on like an amazing team, the Patriots, Niners, a team with amazing defenses, he's not a quarterback that's going to carry a team. I think that's the perception of NFL bettors, and that's what led to this. On top of him not being something. Thank you so much.
This is free money. This is free money for Vegas because
going in.
Like, whoa, look at the odds now. Yeah, it's like dude, they're not going to go anyway. So it's like, what the fuck?
Michael Creamer.
Thanks, buddy.
I hope that's your porn name. Thank you for the super chat. Much appreciated. By week 8, Soto will claim that no one saw Jimmy G being injured and that hindsight is 2020. No need to be a Nostradamus here. Jimmy G will not play more than 10 games in 2023.
Michael Creamer, did you hear what I said? I said you got the deal that you did on Jimmy G because of his injury history. I said exactly that. If he gets injured or he doesn't perform well, then you have that out after this year. Hopefully you do draft a quarterback who will be in his second year in 24, and you'll get some good return out of him. I'm watching tape on Tanner McKee. The only thing that really bugs me about that is I mean, how bad was his the group around him? Mm-hmm. He won like 3 games last year, like 2 games the year before. Sanford was terrible, but he's a solid player. We can get him maybe second, third round, or like you said, Hendon Hooker. Go from G-string to Hooker. Sweet.
Right. This is your perfect guy.
It writes itself.
Correctly named quarterbacks in Las Vegas, right? One thing we never had with Derek Carr. It's like, oh man, he's gonna get caught. Hammered at a strip club.
Hang on a second. Koji is actually being positive. Maybe because he's not talking about me.
Seriously? Is this what we're going with? How many times have we discussed Jimmy Garoppolo's win percentage? He's always got one of the best defenses in football, one of the best offensive schemes in football, some of the best weapons in football. We know that's why he's won so much. Right? You can all agree? Now, he's got offensive weapons in Vegas.
I don't know, man. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't go in there and take those players away from him. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. We all know.
Well, yeah, he's playing on good teams for sure.
What does Davante Adams think of all this? So he Snapchatted. I like how every single time we have to go through like the Instagrams of players to like figure what's going on. And even then it's always fucking cryptic. He Instagram storied if you haven't talked to me in the last 2 weeks, stop blowing me up now. So everyone's like, oh shit, he's pissed. He doesn't like the Jimmy Garoppolo news. Then he tweeted, kind of sort of clarified, NFL players still have to be cryptic every time. Don't make too much of it. Phone dry. Then here comes everybody trying to get the inside scoop. Shit is annoying. That's it. Jimmy, let's get this bag. Punch emoji. Does he sound excited?
Bro.
Does he sound excited to you?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
He knows. Look, he knows for a fact, 100%, Jimmy G can get him the ball where he wants it. Mm-hmm. And he knows that The offense should be run smoother this year if Jimmy G stays healthy. But dude, that's I'm not worried about Jimmy G's play. The only worry I have is the same worry that the organization has. Can he stay healthy? That's it. Nothing else.
He's still a game manager, right? Like it's still like the ceiling that he has is low, but the basement is high, right? He's just like he's probably not gonna throw some really bad 2-3 really bad picks in a game that cost you the game. He's probably not gonna be the hero that you need in the fourth quarter. He's somewhere in between. He's just like, okay, dink and dunk. I saw somewhere, I forgot I should look up the exact stats, but he has something like the highest yards per catch of any player or of any quarterback in the last few seasons, of like 43 quarterbacks. But he's like 40th in air yards. So he's literally just like 5 yards, 6 yards, 5 yards, 6 yards, and then Christian McCaffrey takes off with it, right?
Well, I mean, there's two ways to look at that. That's Shannon. First off, that's Shanahan's offense. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have a deep offense. He has an offense. Get your ball into the playmaker's hands in space. That's his offense. Mm-hmm. The deal is, if you get these playmakers the ball in space in a position where they can run with the ball afterwards, where they don't have to be reaching behind themselves, jumping, stooping down, where they can run after catch. Yeah, that is good for the quarterback as well. Mm-hmm. He's putting them in a position where they can run after the catch, not where they have to stop their momentum. And which we've seen that. Hopefully, that some of that old JMD offense still stuck in that brain of his.
Yeah, it's been how long since he's played under Josh McDaniels? 4 seasons.
Their offense is almost exactly the same. The Shanahan and JMD offense is the West Coast offense, short pass offense. I think that JMD has a lot more deep shots built in, but it's a very similar offense.
There's just no deep ball threat now, which completely changes how you defend a football team, right? No deep ball threat at all. I mean, that's a big deal. That's a big deal with that arm. I mean, that's the price you're paying, right? For system quarterback, game manager, take some of the wild cards out. How does the Autumn Windbag Nation feel about it? I put out a poll question about an hour ago. I didn't do it right away because I think we immediately get knee jerk. That's why we say it all the time. When we do these things, we like to wait. One, mostly because we want to let like the real contracts numbers come out. Like let's find out the real numbers, and then we can talk about it more. And also gives us a chance to kind of simmer down a little bit. Like, how do we really feel about it? So I put on the poll question on a scale of 1 to 5. 1, you hate it. 5, you love it. How do you feel about the Jimmy G signing? A third of you, 34% of you hate it. 32% of you, another third of you, super indifferent. 3, 13% 2, 12% 4. Only 9% of you are super excited about the Jimmy Garoppolo signing. Where do you fall on 1 through 5?
I'm a 3.
Yeah, indifferent. That's the thing. Is like
I'm not indifferent. I'm kind of waiting to see what we do defensively. Offensively, I think we're fine. We maybe get younger on the offensive line. I had us taking a couple of offensive linemen within the first 3 rounds, a center and a guard. It all depends, man. Because you're being strategic and you're planning and this and that. It's like, okay, well, when are you going to go for it? When are you going to get these pieces right? And we'll have to see, man.
Well, another part of this that just makes perfect sense is at least we're gonna have this on the sidelines a little more often.
Fucking just
yeah. What was this porn star's name again? Was it Mia something?
I don't fucking know. Some freaking Latina chick.
I'm pretty good at knowing the porn stars, and I forgot who this one is. And she's built like my flavor, a Latina that's super top heavy. Dude, he is going to slay in Las Vegas. Like he's gonna crush it at the AVN Awards every year.
I think he's going to be a lot. I think he's going to be a lot healthier because his cardio is going to be up.
He's not carrying the weight of full balls because they'll be just always drained. I wonder if he's not going to be able to run anymore because he won't have legs. from smashing all the time in Las. Seriously, like if you
Women
like strippers and
losing
porn
legs.
stars, if you like strippers and porn stars, and you're coming to Las Vegas, you're in fucking Disneyland. Look at those things. How does she sleep?
Is that Aubrey Batoni?
No, I know who that is, and no, that I would have been very impressed if it was Aubrey. She's like a milfier, fatter version of Aubrey Batoni.
Is that the same? Is that the same porn star chick?
That's the one. That's the one he had that date with in like 2018 or something.
Come on, bro. Let's just freaking look it up. Jimmy G, porn star. Come on.
I was kind of hoping we'd find out which perv listeners we have, because I thought for sure someone would be like, oh yeah, that's so and so. No one's chimed in yet. People are afraid to acknowledge.
You got it right. It's Kiara Mia.
Oh, Kiara Mia. Okay.
Let's put up some pictures of her.
I like how 140 people are watching right now. Half of you know exactly who that is, but you just didn't want to like admit it. Come on, you're among friends. You can acknowledge that you watch porn.
Oh God,
it's fine. You got a scene? Should we play a scene?
No. There's a freaking picture of her. Oh.
Are you mind-masturbating right now?
No, she looks worked on.
Oh yeah. That should be our question of the day on Thursday's show. Which porn star should Jimmy G start dating?
I mean, maybe she's just a little bit puffy from the surgery, but
I'm gonna make a note of that. Which porn star should Jimmy G start dating? It'd be nice for him to settle down. You know what I mean? Settle down with a nice, innocent porn star. Keep him from going crazy, hitting the clubs, going wild.
Michael Creamer.
Michael Creamer, thank you again so much for the super chat. Please bring back to your show a favorite radar analyst after the Windbags, Carl Cochran. He was was he our very first guest?
No, AJ Hawk was.
That's right. AJ was our first one. He was the first guest we had that I didn't know. He's the first guest we ever had that where I just kind of like just sent a DM and wondered if he'd come on. It's been a while. We had him on a couple.
Man, Carl's a freaking soldier, bro. He had some stuff going on the last time that he came on, and he still came on.
That's why we haven't had him on. He was going through some shit. Yeah, he dropped that bomb on us right away. He's
bro, and I was like, "Why are you still?" He's like, "I just want to get my mind off of it. Let's do it." I'm like, "Bro, I'm not gonna tell you how to live your life. Let's fucking go."
It was like that.
That was fucking G of him, dude. I would always appreciate that.
It was like that day he found out his brother had died.
Well, I was gonna
like that morning.
But yeah,
he said it on air. Like it's not a secret.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
But he found. Yeah, I'm not gonna blow him up. But
like that morning, he said. Like
that morning, he found out
before. Yeah, and he
was like
wanted to come on the show.
He was like 45 minutes late to the taping, and we're like, "Oh, this fucking guy! What a loser!" He's like, "Well, no, it's just I just found out my brother died today." We're like, "Oh, what are you doing here?
Let's just reschedule." He's like,
"We'll reschedule whenever you're ready." He's like, "No, I want to do it. I want to get my mind off it. I want to talk football." That's probably how I'd heal. I feel like because if I lose somebody, I am the guy that wants to get right back to work. Just like let me get back in the flow, back with what I'm used to, get my mind off of it, and then I just drink myself retarded at night. Yeah,
more so.
much more so. So what's this offense look like next season? No deep ball. Probably less interceptions.
I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say no deep ball. I'm
definitely saying that.
I think he can still throw a deep ball. I don't think it's going to be no deep ball. When you have a weapon like Davante Adams, the deep ball is always in play.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be meticulous. Move the ball down the field. Get the ball to your playmakers in space, type of thing. It's going to be the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully it's more accurate. We go from there.
I'm also not as confident as you. I love your optimism. Because hopefully you're seeing things I'm not. But the injury is I think 5-6 weeks done, right?
I don't think there's a deep ball there, man. It's all we can predict is like the player.
You can't predict.
No, we can't.
That's what happens every season.
He's played full seasons.
I think he's played a full season as a starter. I think it was one full season he played it. How many seasons was he this? So 2018, after week 3, out for the season. 2020, out for the season, ankle injury.
But how many games did he play?
2020 week 8, got injured in week 8, and so he got injured in week 2, missed 2 games, and then week 8 missed the rest of the season. So he played 5 games, and then 2021 he missed 1 game with a calf injury, and that's when he broke his thumb and played the rest of the season with a broken thumb. So he technically played the rest of the season, but then he couldn't play. Like, he was technically playing, but he might as well have not have, because he played like shit because he had a broken thumb. And then last season played 5 games, and then he broke his foot in December. So the seasons he's a full-time starter, he gets hurt basically every single time. And with our line, I don't know, man. I don't know. You're right. Man. It's like it's really hard to predict. Like, well, clearly he's going to get injured again because he does. Like, you're right. It's not airtight like that, but
you can't think that way when you're predicting performance. Like, you just you can't. I mean, if you want to look at it from a negative standpoint, then you're not looking at things objectively.
I'm looking at the history. What are you talking about? I am looking at it objectively. He's made 1 full season uninjured. That's bad. Like, what's unobjective about that?
When we look at it, see what our offense is going to look like, we look at their play. We don't look at their injuries. We look at how they play.
That's not true. You talked about Josh Jacobs' injuries every season and how
I do or you do.
We both do. That's always been a big part of how we evaluated Josh Jacobs, was injury. If you don't take injury history into consideration, you're not looking at a player correctly. Like, that's especially when it's drastically bad, right? When it's like semi, right? When you're just like, you've played 7 seasons, you got hurt in 1 or 2 of them, it's not a big factor. But when you've got a guy like with Derek Carr, that guy never gets hurt. He missed 2 games because of injury. Like, that's a factor. On the other side, you've got Garoppolo, who always gets hurt. That's a factor. The 75% in between, you don't really factor it that much. But when it's the extremes, you do. Jimmy G, you got to. Sam A, thank you so much for the super chat. Much appreciated. I just got here. I don't get notifications. What did I miss? How do you guys feel about Jimmy Garoppolo? You still draft a quarterback? I'm kind of bummed. All right, let's. We got a bunch of new listeners, so let's kind of rehash where we've been here.
I got a dip though.
You got a dip? Okay, get out of here.
All right, guys. See you later.
Just me for now. Basically, we think the contract is pretty fair, numbers wise. What's getting paid? This is exactly who we thought, not who we wanted, not who we sought after, but what we expected was that Jimmy G. I think it was 3 shows ago we did our top 10 list of quarterbacks we expect to take the week 1 snap as a starter. Jimmy G was number 1. Ironically, Stidham was number 2, and he's gone, right? We'll get to that. Jimmy G, number 1. So this is who we thought we were going to get. We understand why Josh McDaniels is doing it. We're assuming that Jimmy G still knows the system well. I'm not as confident as Soto is that he's just going to pick up the system like nothing, because I don't think the Niners and the Josh McDaniels system is as similar as he says it is. So what I don't like about it mostly is that I feel like Jarrett Stidham could have done basically the same thing for $20 million less this season. That's more my frustration, is that Jarrett Stidham could have been Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe worse, but maybe way better. He's played 2 games as a starter for the Raiders, and he played pretty well. Not amazing. Raiders went 0-2 in those games, but he played not bad. The team seemed to rally around him, had the respect of his team. Threw a bunch of yards, threw a bunch of touchdowns, threw some picks. But the potential of Jarrett Stidham is why I would have liked him over Jimmy Garoppolo. Because he could, maybe he's great. Maybe he's terrible, right? But either way, if Jimmy Garoppolo or Jarrett Stidham, you need a bridge quarterback. While I still assume, I don't think this changes anything in the draft. I don't think this changes the Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler draft strategy at all. I think they're still probably going to draft a quarterback. I still hope they draft down, go a bunch of defense, get a 2nd-round quarterback to develop. I really like Hendon Hooker in the 2nd. There's that part of it. But if I can save that $20 million a season and have Jarrett Stidham, that's 2.5 starting defensemen. That's That's 2 really good starting defensemen, which we desperately need. We talked about Davante Adams and how he seemed kind of like unhappy with it on Instagram, but then he said on Twitter, he's, okay, I'm for it. No big deal. The other part of this Stidham thing that worries me is that Jarrett Stidham, we thought for sure, and Soto was in complete agreement with me. We were 95% sure he was going to stay in Las Vegas because he played well enough where you want to keep him in the building. He knows the system. The teammates like him, but not so well where 10 teams are going to throw $50 million at him, hoping he'll be their starter, right? It was kind of that weird, like perfectly gray area where we thought, okay, there's no reason why we can't keep him. And we didn't. He bounced for Denver. I hope I'm wrong, but this kind of tells me he doesn't want to play for Josh McDaniels. Like where else is Jarrett Stidham going to be more successful than under the basically the only offensive coordinator he's ever known, with a bunch of teammates that he has a year of experience with, 2 starting games that he played pretty well, and in a state with no income tax. Like I thought for sure he'd stay, unless he doesn't want to play for Josh McDaniels. That's my concern, is that he just screw it. Because think about it. If you're going to back up a quarterback in the NFL, if you're going to be a backup quarterback in the NFL and you want to be a starter, who's the one quarterback you'd want to back up the most? Who's the one quarterback where you're like, hey, my chances of playing are really high? Jimmy G-string. The guy gets hurt every season. Every season but one. As a starter, he's gotten hurt. So if I want to be a backup with a chance of starting, back up Jimmy Garoppolo. That's who I want. Rich Vitale, again, thank you so much for the super chat. Love your show, but Soto reminds me of the guy you argue politics with who will never let you nail him down with facts. It's funny because I'm like, when I talk I'm like super agnostic with politics. I haven't voted in 10 years. I'm one of the they're all thieves, Republican, Democrat. They're all scumbags type guy. So that's why I love talking politics. I think on my Facebook, on my profile, when you look up name, status, interests, under politics, I think I put, if I remember correctly, it's been 15 years. I put opposite of whatever yours is, because that's how I am. I'm just like, whatever you feel politically is wrong. That's how I am. I'll find something about your politics that's fucking stupid, right? Soto digs in and he doesn't dig out. Part of that, I think, is just from doing a show with me for so long that he's just like, fuck you, RJ. I'm not going to be wrong here. But it's not like he doesn't come with his facts and numbers either, right? It isn't like he doesn't come in with, he doesn't do his research. He comes in with his research. He knows what he's talking about a lot of times. But he gets in his feelings. He gets emotional, right? I'm kind of a sociopath. I can talk all kinds of stuff and be unemotional about it. Sometimes I get fired up, but he can get pretty fired up too. All right. We missed a bunch of Michael Creamer, RJ is absolutely correct. Jarrett wanted out. It feels that way. I can see the Broncos and Sean Payton being like, look, Russell Wilson, he may not be our starter forever. He played so terribly. They could have maybe sweetened the pot like that and saying like, look, hey, but which offense would you rather be a quarterback of? An offense with Davante Adams, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, Josh Jacobs, the Raiders' single season receiving leader, Davante Adams, the NFL's #1 rushing leader, Josh Jacobs. We'll see if Waller can get healthy. A top 3 slot receiver, Pro Bowler, and Hunter Renfrow. It certainly wasn't money that sent Jarrett Stidham to Denver. Definitely wasn't money. $10 million max for 2 years? I don't think so. What other ones we got? Sam A, do you think we win more or less games than 2022? Oh, that hurts. Coming right with the good stuff, huh? Paint me into a corner. I've been solo for 2 minutes and you're painting me into a corner. Well, there's a lot of things we got to worry about. I mean, if you're asking for a now, I'm going to say more. I can't imagine we collapse the same way. But I think the true answer, and I always say this when I make, because I come from the UFC world. I always say this when I'm doing my SiriusXM radio show for fighting. These are my fight picks, but I reserve the right to change my pick after a weigh-in. I want to see how the fighter looks on the scale, and with certain fighters, it's a big difference, right? Do they make weight? Do they miss weight? How do they look? Some fighters, it's a big deal. Heavyweights, obviously not. But with a lot of, heavyweights, it can be, if they're out of shape. But I always reserve the right to be able to say, okay, this is my pick, but I can change it after the weigh-in. It's the same way this early in the season, right? It's March 13th. Free agency literally started today, or like the tampering window starts today. The things become official on Wednesday. The draft is still a month away. So much can happen between now and then. So I'm going to say more now because I'm cautiously optimistic that we're going to turn all these draft picks into some impact defensive players. This offensive line will be figured out. We'll see what Jimmy Garoppolo can do. I don't know. Dutchmaster 710. Mike White got more money than Stidham. You're crying over a literal backup who wouldn't take more money than the Raiders were giving him. That's my whole point. He could have been our starter for $20 million less. And we'll see how good he is moving forward. Right? I mean, you're getting a bridge. How about this? You're paying $25 million a season to a bridge quarterback. That's what Jimmy Garoppolo is, a bridge quarterback for the Raiders. You're telling me Jarrett Stidham and saving $20 million a season? Does it make sense? Come on. Koji, you're right, RJ. It makes less sense not to re-sign Stidham given Jimmy's injury history, system knowledge, and all. I'm joking about Jimmy's win percentage. We were told before win-loss is a quarterback stat. Now, I get into this fight all the time. I did a lot of my math that I did in like high school and college was statistics. I was a history major, but I love statistics. Okay. This is one thing we run into with football, with fighting, with all kinds of stuff, is we hear stats and we say, that's concrete stat. That tells the whole story, right? It doesn't. People get all fired up. Time of possession. It's a pointless stat. It's a useless stat. You should never bring it up. No, it's not a pointless stat. But it is a stat that tells one tiny picture of a much bigger story. Time of possession is great. I'm glad we have that information. It's up to us to make sure we don't turn that information into something that it isn't. Quarterback win-loss, it's unfair for me to say that doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It's stupid. That is unfair of me. I was wrong to portray it that way. It matters. It's something that matters. Of course, quarterbacks and how they play affect whether a team wins or loses. But I just can't stand it's the only thing some people talk about. They'll be like, oh yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo. He's way better than Derek Carr. He's a Super Bowl level quarterback. Look at his win-loss record. And like, that's it. That's all they say is their win-loss record. It's like, no, you can't just have that be it. It's one of 87 things you can say about a quarterback that says how they are. If you say he's got a great win-loss record and he's a smart player and he knows the system and you can always count on him and he keeps turnovers low and he has a great win-loss record. Okay. All those little pieces, you're making your case. But if you're just like, oh, his win-loss record's insane. That's it. Just like, shut up, dude. Omar, thank you so much for the super chat. Say what you want about Derek Carr, but this is the ST I was worried about. We need to start blaming the owner from hiring Gruden, giving him complete power to this. Well, that's the irony every time, right? Is the person potentially most responsible for the Raiders being mostly unsuccessful the last fifth of a century is the guy you can't fire. It's the guy you can't draft. It's the guy you can't pick up in free agency. It's not the coach you can pick up. It's the owner. It might be the owner. And when it's that, this all kind of feels irrelevant. Jay Castro, thank you for the super chat. Move has me so bummed. I might take the year off. Ouch. Jay Castro. Now, I need to also separate my emotions here when I say, like, look, I would have much, much, much rather have paid Stidham pennies, kept him. But if he wanted out, then he wanted out. There's nothing you can do. But if Garoppolo stays healthy, right? Giant F. If Garoppolo stays healthy, We still have an offense that 2 seasons ago carried a atrocious defense into the playoffs and was one play away from beating the AFC champions in the Bengals, right? That offense is still more or less there. Now, different head coach, obviously a lot of different things, but a lot of those pieces are still there, right? It's this defense. If this defense can finally turn a corner that it hasn't done in 20 years, right? If this defense can finally just be semi-average, maybe we get a bunch of great draft picks that play well. Maybe we make big moves in free agency. I don't know. I don't know what's going to take because bad defenses don't get better overnight, right? Ocean liners don't turn on a dime and do U-turns. They take forever. And make no mistake, this Raiders defense, it's a systemically bad defense and long-time problem. It's not like it's been 20 years. Like that's not a Josh McDaniels problem. That's not a Dave Gunther problem. That's not a John Gruden problem. That is a Raiders problem. This defense has been bad long before all these guys were in the room, were in the building. And once that can kind of sort of look good, or even kind of sort of look semi-decent, we're having very different conversations. But Jimmy Garoppolo has always had great defenses, whether in New England or in San Francisco. He's always had great defenses. He's always had weapons. He's always had great head coaches. Now in Las Vegas, he has a head coach with a track record of being terrible, a defense with a track record of being terrible, but he does have the weapons. He does have the weapons. Not the line, but he does have the weapons. Bridge to the quarterback, they'd better draft. Well, that's what all kind of comes down to, right? Like this isn't going to be Jimmy Garoppolo isn't going to make or break whether Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler. That's not going to be their legacy, right? Whoever they draft or whoever they pick to be the quarterback of the future, that's going to be their legacy. Because this is another part too, is this also tells me, because remember everything that Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler have been saying is, we're planning for the future. We're doing what's best. We're trying to build a franchise to be successful for seasons to come. Because the big question is like, look, you're on the hot seat. You don't go from a 10-win team to a 6-win team and not be on the hot seat. Oh, we're confident Mark Davis is going to give us plenty of room, let us develop. And to a point, I agree. But this also tells me that Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels aren't super confident they've got this season to build. This move tells me they need to make a move. They need to be successful this season. So don't let anyone in hindsight try to tell you that the Raiders like, well, yeah, it was just a tank move or they're just kind of chilling. It's like, no, they're trying to win now. Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler last season, it was like, oh, they must have tanked. No, hell no. You don't sign Davante Adams to that deal. You don't sign Derek Carr to that deal. Dude, all the big expensive contracts that the Raiders currently have, they were all Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler. Josh McDaniels, Max Crosby, Darren Waller, they didn't need to re-sign. He had 2 years left on his deal. They gave him a new deal. Getting Chandler Jones. These were all win-now moves. They know they're in win-now mode. You're acting like your quarterback got hurt and died. If any quarterbacks get hurt and die in the NFL, I'm not even going to say it. $5 million for Stidham a year is a lot. No, it's not. It's less than $4 million guaranteed. That is backup quarterback money. Get out of here. It's backup quarterback money. What else? Stopgap. Try that word. Bridge quarterback, stopgap. Yeah. Well, it's got to be. Everyone's been saying the same thing. Where's the bridge? Burnt bridge. Like bridge to what? That's what it all comes down to, right? And that's what I said. Like this isn't going to define Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler, Jimmy Garoppolo. It's who they get next. It's who they draft or not draft. That's the other part. If they draft or not draft a future quarterback, that's going to be their legacy. That's going to be what keeps them, other than wins and losses, right? Which is the most important thing, and ultimately what's going to come down to. Other than wins and losses, the second most important thing that keeps a head coach or a GM's job or how their gauge is successful is who they get and develop under center. Jimmy G has never thrown for over 4,000 yards in his whole career. Remember like how Soto's always trying to change the vernacular of football to like talk about how shitty Derek Carr is and how much he hates him? I was like, well, look, everyone goes to the Pro Bowl. Derek Carr is a 4-time Pro Bowler. No, it doesn't count. It shouldn't count. He's not a Pro Bowler. Everyone goes. Jimmy G's never gone. He gets into the playoffs. He goes to Super Bowls. He's not a Pro Bowl quarterback. Mark Davis, the one to blame the most. Well, he's the only one that's been there the whole time. Right? This is the other part I don't like. Now the Broncos are going into our playbook. I think that's often a little overrated. You'll see players, go to, other divisional opponents and know some stuff. I'm not saying it irrelevant. It certainly is a factor. It matters, especially a quarterback who's done that system a long time, right? I think it's a little overrated, but it is something to think about. It is something to think about. Like, do you have to change all the verbiage now when you're at the line of scrimmage? Do you have to, do you have to speak in a different code now, different language because of that? I don't know. I would rather roll with Stidham. Yep, I concur. I've talked about it multiple times. Who else? What else? No, Carr carried them. Carr couldn't carry anything. You guys are fun. What else? McDaniels did the same thing in Denver, right? Like, what ultimately decided Josh McDaniels' fate in Denver? The losing streak and banking on Tim Tebow, right? Wins and losses, bad, and flopped at quarterback, right? Like, that's what got him fired after not even 2 full seasons. Wins and losses, flop at quarterback. And Josh McDaniels came into a way better, and this is the other part that's always so frustrating about Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler, is it's the very, very rare situation where a new head coach, and a new GM come to a team with a winning record. Because normally when you fire a head coach and GM, it's because the team sucks, right? They kept losing. They came off 2 wins, 3 wins, 4 wins. They're in cap hell. The team is terrible. All right, we got to start over. Because of what happened with John Gruden, it was the rare situation where, and I think that's why they made that move. Like, Josh McDaniels remember what happened with the Indianapolis Colts? Like, he was on the plane to be the Colts head coach. And Bill Belichick called him and said, come back, right? He had that opportunity. So that's why, like, anytime anyone tells you, oh man, well, John Gruden ruined this roster, the defense is terrible, like, that's why Josh McDaniels can't win. That's why Dave Ziegler is struggling with the roster. It's like they walked into a better situation than 99% of head coaches and GMs. They came onto a team with multiple Pro Bowlers, of a 10-win season, franchise quarterback. They came into a much better system than almost any other coach. And they flopped. They had more, sure, they had problems. Absolutely. Bad defense, bad roster stuff, but they had all their draft picks, really good cap situation, 10-win team. And they fell to 6. That's bad. Now, I'm not saying get rid of them, right? It's 1 season, let them build who they want, but it's going to be, like, you can't forget that. Taylor Diesel, they signed Carr for that scapegoat deal to attract Adams. I don't know if they signed Carr to be a scapegoat, but he certainly is, and it was a deal that allowed him to be. And he did play poor, right? He did play poor. It was his worst season since his rookie year. And, of course, Carr takes responsibility for his play, but what made him have the worst season of his career? Like, what changed between last season and this season? Draft Jalen Carter and Hendon Hooker and all as well. Sounds good to me. Sounds really good to me. We need a quarterback and then all defense. Quarterback, all defense. There's a couple of young defensive key, players on our team and that's the other part too that's frustrating with this season, is not just is our defense bad, but it got worse. It got worse from last season. So yeah, the defense was bad and there's not a lot of good players, but if you're a good coach, if you're a good GM, you're supposed to improve. That's literally the job of a coach, is to take what you have and get the most out of them. Certainly didn't work on our defense. Can't blame Carr for that. Taylor Beatty, we're going to lose Adams and Jacobs next year. Want to bet money? Well, Jacobs certainly makes sense. He's signing a, as of right now, he's still on a franchise tag for a 1-year deal. I have to look at Davante Adams' contract if you can just kind of get rid of him. I don't know how that works. I haven't looked at it with those eyes in a while. Thunderballs, love the name. Don't want Jimmy G. Thanks a effing lot. RJ, did you watch the David Carr interview yet? If so, thoughts? He kind of called the Jimmy G signing. I still have not seen it. I need to. It's funny. There's a lot of like real traditional, like big J journal. I keep dropping this thing. A lot of traditional, like big J journalists that just won't do it because it's like, and they're right. Like it's not journalism. Like when you're getting interviewed by your family member, it's like, what is this? But it's better than nothing, right? Like, don't look at it that way. Just look at it as like, all right, I'm chiming into a conversation between family members and we got some stuff out of it, which is weird because from what Soto has told me from it, it looks like that we're getting conflicting reports because according to Soto, David Carr alluded to the fact that all they need is a quarterback that can just do what they're told. Just get the ball here at this time. Like you're not reading defenses. It's like, all right, here's 2 or 3 plays, right? Here's a run play, here's a pass play, and a variation, right? Like we're not with John Gruden, he needed a quarterback to be like, okay, you can change the thing to anything. Like you need to be able to read that stuff, make all these drastic adjustments, playbooks this thick, right? According to Soto's interpretation, what David Carr said, he just like a rookie quarterback would be fine. A young quarterback could be fine. You just want someone to just do what they're told. Experience is less important than just doing what you're told. But if that's the case, then why do you need a quarterback that knows Josh McDaniels' system? If that's all you need, then why is experience in the system so important? And that's kind of what everyone's been saying. So I'm just getting a lot of like conflicting ideas about that, which is throwing me off. All right. That's it for me. Again, the giant news, of course, Jimmy Garoppolo to the Raiders. I spent a lot of time shitting on it. I'm going to end with, I'm going to be optimistic. He's got a ton of weapons, right? What does Jimmy Garoppolo do well? Keeps interceptions down, keeps turnovers down, and he can get the ball to his playmakers quickly. Okay? That's what he does well. We got the playmakers. We've got a guy that knows how to get a lot of Jimmy Garoppolo or has as an offensive coordinator in Josh McDaniels. Can he do as a head coach is the question. Would I be super shocked if Jimmy Garoppolo just game manages a great offense? Hey, put it there. I'm not going to ever throw the ball deep. Put my little 5-yard outs, some slants, some screens, little play action, dump it off to Darren Waller. Have Davante Adams just juke the pants off of a corner and just throw to a wide open dude. Hand it off to Josh Jacobs. Hunter Renfrow just getting open all the time. Would be that shocking? I'm optimistic. I'm trying to be optimistic. Obviously, the rest of you are not, based on what you did in the poll. A third of you are super pissed. A third of you are indifferent. I'll try to be optimistic. There'll be plenty to get to in the future. Plenty of time to get mad. Plenty of time to be happy. But until then, knock on wood if you're with me.